Hello and welcome back to the podcast for the recently deceased. Episode 25, part 2, second to last episode of the
Yeah.
season. Next week, big episode, best of
Big bada boom.
2022. Big bada boom.
Big bada boom.
Um,
Yeah, big bada boom.
should be a good one
Next week's?
next week. That's right.
Yeah, that's correctamundo. Look, we were kind of thinking about doing it tonight. However, we both thought it was not fair to a handful of films that we wanted to squeeze in before year end, just in case
That's
there was
right.
a golden nugget left that we hadn't had a chance to see, and
Yeah.
also to spend more time, racking and stacking, because we like to have all kinds of criteria. We don't just like to do top five. We like to make sure we mention a lot of films and showcase some of the highlights
Yes.
in all kinds of different
We definitely will be
subgenres.
we'll be ramping up to our top 5. We'll do some honorable mentions.
Is that what that
We'll,
is?
we'll just,
That's
yeah,
ramping
this
up.
is how it ramps up. Ramps
Okay.
right up.
Yeah.
We'll talk about some actors and some performances. We'll talk about some stinkers. Uh,
So okay, let's segue into that. Look, I don't know. You mentioned stingers. A lot of people don't like to hear negativity reviews, but you kind of have to.
you do.
You gotta say how you feel. We're an opinion. We're not a fucking paid critic analysis of. We don't have blurbs on Fangoria or Disgusting or Variety. But Variety, now that I mention it, did have a huge flare up where people were like, they had the worst films of 2022, and a lot of people are upset about it because it's like, hey, fuck you guys.
Yeah. You
we
make a movie.
we can intuit that you are not one of the good movies if you just don't include me in the good movies of 2022. So you don't have to include me in the worst films of 2022. I understand that sentiment, and I think as a filmmaker that must feel extremely shitty.
Yeah.
However, as a fan, that's how we talk with one another. Like the movies that sucked the most, and you want to hear that from other fans.
For me, I think it's more of like I'm not going to make a worst of list, but while we're talking about the best of, I'm going to mention some movies that I thought sucked. And I'm not going to rank them. Like that's a little too that is a little too far for me.
As far as like the worst, yeah.
I'm not going to be like the worst movie of this year was definitely, in your opinion, Scary of the 61st. And in my opinion,
I think you forgot that we're all going to the World's Fair.
oh yeah, which most people gave like a 9.5. And you're
It's
over here
because
like,
they're afraid to
Like-
marginalize an already marginalized group, Nate.
you're like
That's the only fucking reason.
you're like it's a 1. I give it a 1. I give it a negative 1 out of 10.
But there's a couple that like I'm okay with completely embracing. But I'm not gonna say like fuck this movie because
Yeah.
obviously people connect with it. But like for
Obviously.
me, I hate this movie. And
Right.
that's just.
It's
So I
a-
think it's fine.
the
It's
movie
just
is-
there's a way to do it that is really a shitty way, and then there's a way to do it I think that's like fine. Like
'Cause-
it's not for you. That's not for you. We can at least
Yeah.
acknowledge that.
Horror is so subjective as well. Like
Yeah.
yeah, you got big genres and subgenres and
Tall
There's
genres,
tall
thin
genres, thin
genres, fat genres,
gay, straight. Like, it's all
genres of color. I mean,
rainbow genres.
what
I think-
non-binary genres.
We are digressing. We've gone too far. All right. We're here to talk about the menu. Is what we're saying.
neurodivergent genres.
The Menu, starring Voldemort, the chick from The Witch, and
Spawn sidekick.
the fucking clown from Spawn. He was the villain.
and the Beast.
And the
He was
Beast
that, but he was a sidekick potential for a second though, wasn't he?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I thought he was like kind of like showing Spawn the ropes, like, "Oh, you're dead, man. You're like." I don't know. I'm not gonna try to do fucking clown from Spawn's voice, Todd McFarlane. I don't even know. I think I saw it once and it was
Yeah.
fucking gross.
I think the voice sounded a lot like his voice in The Menu.
Yeah, yeah, it did, but
It's
maybe
like
it was just all the prosthetics on where it was like
it's like
hard. It was like more labored because he had all
yeah.
that additional weight on him.
Yeah, it's just like,
But
yeah, oh,
more or less what you're saying.
that's just young John Leguizamo acting like old John Leguizamo.
That's fair. Poor guy.
Oh, poor guy.
Uh,
I'm sorry, John. We love you.
oh no, he's fantastic. So, what you're more or less saying is we're listing a lot of A-list celebrities,
Yeah. Oh my
maybe
God.
somewhat celebrity, but like,
It,
so this is sort of an ensemble cast feature, and
I.
that's part of why I was skeptical.
It's exactly why I was skeptical. I was like, "There's no way this many famous people makes a good horror movie."
This is fucking, Glass Onion, Knives Out bullshit movie
Oh,
that's going to be fine and fun, but it's going to be overpolished and be kind of annoying and pretentious. And
yeah,
they're just showcasing like Bullet Train. Like, this is garbage fluff.
yeah.
This is not good. That's what I
All
was
right,
coming to the movie with.
all right.
You going to do the read through?
That being said, the
Anders?
menu. A young couple travel to a remote island to eat at an exclusive restaurant where the chef has prepared a lavish menu with some shocking surprises. All right, well, I mean, that's they're really sandbagging what this
Oh, but
movie's really.
but that's great. That's
Yeah.
great,
Oh
though. I
yeah,
think that's
yeah.
perfect.
No, I
You,
totally
I
agree.
mean, the genres it's listing comedy, horror, thriller, all of which are accurate. And I think the fact that comedy is listed first is also accurate. We've
Yeah,
mentioned this not long ago as far as
absolutely.
horrors that have comedic elements and comedies that live in a horror universe. This is definitely that one. The elements or the actions have horror tones, and really, it's more so just like the gore of some of the things that happen, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but no, I like that this synopsis, this little abbreviated description of what you're going to get into. I think for me is it's perfect. It's exactly if I saw this on the menu and I was like, that sounds good, I think I will have that. It's the soup du jour.
it's that's the soup of the day.
Uh, that sounds good. I'll have that.
Samsonite, I was way off. Okay.
Yeah.
So the menu. Um, I would definitely call this movie a dark comedy. I would say it's obviously a big budget Hollywood feature, and it shows. You know, the sets are beautiful. It's
Hmm.
shot. It's on a remote island. It's a private restaurant with a couple buildings, and it's almost like a getaway kind of like a spa island
Yeah.
weekend getaway type
Sure.
thing we have
Martha's
going on here.
Vineyard type
Yeah,
bullshit. Yeah.
right, exactly. Pay the toll. I'll have what she's having.
Exactly.
um, this is uh, this is a dark comedy through and through. There are horror elements, yes. There are thriller elements, kinda. There
Wow.
is
In
this
the
movie
tension. Yeah.
is this movie funny? Yes, it is. Is it funny for
100%.
is it funny for everybody? I don't think so. like,
No, probably not. Because there's people like this is about foodie, high
yes,
society,
right.
making fun of that bullshit. And so like there's a lot of it that's gonna go over your head. If you've never watched Iron Chef or you've never listened to like
Yeah.
Anthony Bourdain. Sidebar, first for the night, did his idea of what was like I feel like part of Ray Fiennes' monologue at some point in the movie, I think felt like something Anthony Bourdain talked about. I don't know if that's accurate, but I feel like it was not his background, but something that he was saying about food and the experience with food and eating. For some reason, to me, I was like, that feels like something Anthony Bourdain would have said or done, and I meant to look that up, but I didn't. So because well, we'll get to it. So yes, I don't think it's for everybody. You're right. I think that you kind of have to have like an in or have a somewhat interest in that and the idea of making fun of those kinds of people, these well-to-do people. You have to be entertained or know how to engage with them being dressed down the way that they are. You know what I
Yes.
mean? To get the jokes that are digging on them for how, you know, full of themselves that they are and why it's a diss whenever they get talked to or treated in this kind of way. The
Right.
food that they're eating and the things that are happening, it helps to have a bit more of a frame of reference, so it's not palatable to everyone. I think that's into dark comedy.
Right. Uh,
I appreciate the subtle nod of
yes,
acknowledgement there. Thank
yes,
you.
yes, yes. It
uh,
was
uh,
it was well placed. It was well placed.
yes.
I don't even remember where I was. So yeah, so it's a dark comedy, and
You were talking about who it's for, the
oh
audience, like
yes, yes,
that.
yes. I really liked it, and
Do you remember that time?
I
That was really
that
cool.
was really cool. So this movie, first viewing, because I've seen it
25
twice now.
years.
So first viewing, it definitely keeps you guessing, right? It's a bit of a mystery. You know something fucked up is going on. You don't know what it is. You know something's weird with this other guy. You're not quite sure what it is. The reveals are all pretty unique.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see them coming at all. This kind of movie, you expect some kind of cannibalistic aspect where they're cooking people or they're going to kill the people and turn them into food. So that's where my mind was, and then and they do something very very different,
Mm-hmm.
which was nice. Nicholas Holt's character. I mean, I don't think I've physically hated a character as much as this character, and
Really?
it's because you are definitely supposed to hate
Yeah.
this character, and he did such a good job at being a huge piece of shit that I'm just
Yes.
like physically like I would beat the crap out of this guy if um so Ray Fiennes is just
Yeah.
amazing. Is just amazing. The guy. I mean, I don't think I've ever disliked a performance or a film he's been in. Anya Taylor Joy is fine. Um, I,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was she was great. She
No.
was good. She was good. Um,
For the role that she had to play, I think she did a fine job. I don't think she steals the show. She definitely doesn't like steal any scenes. She doesn't do anything over the top in a landmarky type way to say like it was crucial that she's in this role. This could have been
right.
anyone.
Yeah.
She didn't
Exactly.
add anything to it. It was she was in the background. She's just a vessel to navigate it to come through uh the journey, to kind of like be the fulcrum for the division between the service class and the taking class, the givers and the
Yes.
takers. So yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot else to say that you haven't already said. It does everything to high execution. It looks beautiful. It sounds beautiful. It's a very engaging and interesting plot. The comedic timing and elements are 100% spot on and fantastic. The subtle looks, the cuts, the just straight jokes, the dry delivery, and the wryness to which some of the humor is executed is perfect. It has that kind of sensibility of like a Christopher Guest movie, or like Best in Show or something like that, where it's there, and you're just, if you heard that little side note or that dig or something, it triggers there. And we're going to talk about some of those jokes for me that like really landed,
Oh,
because that's the
absolutely.
fun part about it. um I but again, this is even less of a horror than Bones and All, I
Oh yeah,
think.
I totally agree.
Like
I
uh
totally agree. Bones and
and
all
it
fit.
I don't I'm fine with the horror element being included. I don't think it does a disservice to horror fans. I think horror fans will still enjoy this, but again, you kind of have to be into the kind of humor that exists. um but I think it's perfect. For me, this movie is also an 8 out of 10. I 100% enjoyed it. I can't wait to rewatch it. And I think that it's something that I would be fine with watching again down the road if another person hadn't seen it and I happen to have availability to it.
Yeah. On my first viewing, I definitely give this movie a 7. After watching it a second time, it's an 8 out of 10.
Sweet.
It was so good. It was so. The second time I watched it, it was better.
Sure.
I was laughing more. I was laughing louder. It was laugh out loud funny the second time I watched it. The first time I watched it, I was just kind of like, oh, this is entertaining. No, really, it was. I was laughing out loud the second time I watched it.
Oh, sure. I
Yeah.
very much enjoyed it. Yeah. What was we were watching? There was shit that we were watching too. Is Christmas Bloody Christmas, and then Leech, and Wounded Fawn, where I was like, yeah, there was several moments where I was laughing. I was cackling at a few scenes in here. There's a couple lines that are just hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's an 8 out of 10. It's a
Yeah.
fantastic movie, and that's what's so crazy. These are two large studio budget type fucking movies with wide releases, and I did not see this coming, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that they're out there because, and I'm okay with the horror element being listed for this reason alone, is that it will, those elements being included help to bring a little bit more attention and focus on that as a genre element that might give a little bit more comfort to a studio putting money behind a film that has even more horror elements in it. People's having a comfort level with the horrific elements in this, or Bones and All, like that's a movie about cannibals. They're pretty fucking graphic and upfront with the cannibalism.
Yeah.
This movie, doing the gore that it has, it's just a highlight to saying like they're showing more comfort and more willingness to invest in it, and that's great for the genre. So I'm fine with it, even though I think it's not genuine in describing the movie
Yeah.
from a person that might want to watch a horror movie.
Yeah.
It's
It's definitely not a horror movie. So I am thankful for the horror tag because I would never have watched either of these films.
that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, if they were like new comedy with Ray Fiennes as a cook at a snobby resort, no thanks.
Well, so you watched Pig, right?
No, I haven't seen Pig yet, but
Oh,
it's on my
well,
list. But
yeah, well, yeah.
that's got Nick Cage in it. That's different. I watch everything with Nick Cage.
Yeah, I know, but so to me, like there's elements in Pig that are, Pig is complete. It's a dramatic movie, but this movie made me think of it, and yes, I highly recommend anyone who hasn't seen Pig, starring Nicolas Cage, to go see it. It would be a good double feature with this one. Pig is a dramatic, slower movie, so pace that however you would want to. If you're doing it with the menu, I would probably start Pig and menu for fun, because ending on a high note, fun note is kind of nice. Depends on the kind of evening you want to have. Just think about that. Highs and lows and what have you.
All
Let's
right,
get into the
so
spoiler
yeah,
wars.
here's the spoiler world, and what are we gonna start with? Let's start with Nicholas Holt, because I kind of almost said something that I shouldn't have during the non-spoiler section with
Oh,
his
whenever he
performance. Oh my god, this guy. He's such a slime ball in this movie, but he's also plays the foodie character.
yes.
So he's always like, he talks to the chef. He calls him chef, and he knows all the gear. He knows all the he, know, he knows all the. There's a scene, and Ray Fiennes' character is very uh, proper. He stops all the noise with a loud clap before he talks. He doesn't get interrupted. He finishes what he's saying, and then the noise can resume. That kind of thing. And there's a scene where he serves tea, uh, and he starts to talk about it, and uh, oh no, he opens the floor to questions, right? And this is after something crazy has happened, so everyone's gonna ask crazy questions like, "Are you gonna kill us? Are we gonna die?" And the first person to ask a question is Nicholas Holt's character, and he goes, "Chef, is this bergamot that I'm tasting?" And
Well,
even Ray Fiennes at this point in the movie like rolls his eyes as he answers him, "Yes, it's bergamot."
yeah, it's fantastic. Well, part I think that he's like, I think Ray Fiennes is also like, what? Obviously, it is like it. Anyone can discern that. Like, I think he's like looking down, like, yes, obviously, it is. Like, you don't have to ask. Like, you're not an astute observer, but he knows that you think you're kind of cute or interesting because you can identify it. He is fantastic in the role. Everything that he does, but he has an evolution because he does seem like we enter the movie with the two of them, and it plays as like they're the ones that are going to experience this, but we don't realize he actually knows far more than anyone else in the fucking any other guest that of
Right.
what's going to transpire that evening, and that's what makes it even seedier with his actions. He, whenever events shit starts to go down, he's still eating. He's fine with what's happening.
Yeah.
He's like still like he's just gulping it up while like someone's writhing in agony because their fucking fingers gone. He's completely okay with it, and it's so unnerving and hilarious.
And he's like, "Are you gonna finish yours?" And he like takes hers and like knocks a,
Yeah.
he like breaks a wine glass.
But yeah, and he keeps fucking up because and he's like trying to make an impression. He's asking her like, "Why'd you get to meet with Chef? This is bullshit. I'm the fucking person that brought you here."
Why'd you
And
get a kitchen meal? Why I should have got a kitchen meal? Was it
yeah,
protein or veg? She slaps him. Protein or veg? Dude, she's a smoker too, right? So he brings her as his as his plus one because chef doesn't take singles.
right.
And
And
he and his
he
girlfriend
lost
broke
his
up,
date,
right?
his
Yeah,
original one. Yeah,
yeah,
so she's the backup, Margot.
yeah.
Uh,
And that's Anya Taylor Joy, right? And
mhm.
she's a smoker, so every time he gets fed up with her or saying something stupid or what he thinks is her embarrassing him, he's like he's like fucking smoker can't even fucking taste it anyway, and he just goes back to
Yeah, he loses it at some point.
yeah. You really shouldn't
But
smoke.
so
He
I mean,
destroys your palate.
yeah,
Destroys your
yeah.
palate.
Everything about the way that the movie is executed is just fun. And so like I love the idea that, with the ensemble cast, each one of the different tables, the guests has like a backstory, and the way that they unfold and why they're relevant is very entertaining and engaging. Whether it's, the couple that has marital issues, or John Leguizamo's falling star actor, the angel investor bros that are there because of the angel investor, which by the way was an amazing reveal. Death, the fact
Oh
that the guy gets
yeah.
descended into the water, he's the angel investor, and they put him in a fucking angel costume. Like
Yeah.
it, it's so just unapologetically itself, and just like he's like this. It's like this is his meal. He's everything's gonna make sense, and this is how it's all planned. Uh, and it all plays and works in the way that he's intending, the meals and the
Yeah.
actions that he's taking with the guests that are there. And his rationale by the end of the movie is you understand it. It's like, yeah, this I get it.
Yeah. There's givers and there's takers, and which side are you on? And then just the concept of his menu, it plays out beautifully.
Mhm. Yeah, his ability to kind of discern that Anya Taylor-Joy's Margot was not one of them, and he knew that. He saw her from the kitchen whenever she sat down, and he like made eye contact, and then whenever he eventually sits with her, he's like, "You're not one of them."
Yeah.
So like, I know a service worker when I see one. What industry do you work in? And you find out she's an escort that
Yeah.
he hired, and she actually escorted for the guy, the older guy that's there.
Gentleman,
People have connections to one another in some kind of way. But like the uh his we mentioned earlier talking about shitting on films, right?
yeah.
When Ray Fiennes, Chef Slowick, has his speech about John Leguizamo's character's movie,
Yeah.
he talked. I was like, I knew what he was gonna say, and the way that which he said it was so satisfying to listen to, because John Leguizamo did a shitty, fucking movie with like
Yeah.
some dumb hacky, Calling Dr. Sunshine, I think
Yeah,
is what
yeah,
the movie's
yeah.
called, and Ray Fine just goes on this thing like, my time is so
Yeah. I
infrequently
had
given
some.
where I
I
get to
had.
enjoy myself. I had the day
I
off,
had the day off. Like,
which I get like once a month. Like, and he's just going on and on. And I decided to see your movie, and I was given the worst fucking movie to ever see. And like, he's just so
yeah.
shitty about it, but just direct and like, my time is valuable, and you wasted 2 hours of my life on your awful performance. I thought he eviscerated him, and it
Yeah.
was very satisfying. That's what I envision saying to uh, the director of Scariest 61st and World's Fair. So I love
Uh,
that part.
yeah, that was one of the great scenes. I also really enjoyed the reveal when he pulls Nicholas Hoyt's character out and kind of puts him on the spot and makes him cook.
Yeah.
Like that scene was like, cringe worthy of like embarrassing, and also like when Anya Taylor Joy later on walks down the hall and you just see him hanging there. It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
like you get some satisfaction, and also it's kind of like, you know, it's almost it's culty, right? Like they worship at the feet of Chef, right? They're willing to die for him. Um, and so was Nicholas Hoyt's character for some reason.
Yeah, he knew like
Yeah,
that he and everyone was gonna die, and that's what's even extra fucked up about him bringing Margot along is like
right.
he was gonna just let her die.
And
Like,
that gets brought up in the movie. That gets revealed in the movie.
yeah,
Yeah, that's so good. Um,
and it's so cool, but and like and so yeah, he because like and you know it makes all of the lines of him talking about how like you have to figure out the theme of the night and what it all means. You know, you're getting tortillas with fucking personal
oh,
information,
yeah,
laser
that's
and personal. You're getting the chicken in the thigh where he tells the story about his dad being drunk and beating up his mother and him, and the fucking scissors in the thigh. It's like all these bizarre, over the top fucking things that he's incorporating into the goddamn food that they're eating. It's like you before it really flips on its head and you know that what's going to be happening. You're kind of like, man, this guy's just fucking weird, bizarre. Like this is just a thing that they're doing. Like it's not until the sous chef creates the mess that you're like, oh,
yeah,
it's gonna go this way. But it all makes sense. All the parts of the menu that he's describing, you're kind of like, oh well, yeah, he does have a vision
yeah.
for this fucking thing. Uh,
You just reminded me of like my favorite joke in the movie. All right, so there's an attendant. It's this Asian woman who she runs the guests so that chef could run the menu, and that's like her thing. There's these three like Wall Street investor type douches, and the first course after the mess is the leg thigh with the scissor in it, right, with the tortillas, and everyone has laser engraved images on their tortillas. These douches have like them proof of them investor trading or insider trading and just like defrauding investors, and they're like so they excuse me. She comes over and they go, "What is this?" And she goes, "Tortillas."
yeah,
and he goes, "No, what the fuck is this?" And she goes, "Tortillas delicioso." I'm just dying, just dying. How's like they're playing it so straight, like they know
yes,
we're gonna kill all you guys, uh,
yeah.
but we're here to do a job, and that's what the job. This is what the job is, and
No, it is fantastic. And I think that's why it's executed so well, like, or why it's such a like, because it's not as if this is doing, you know, the story or the idea is not like some groundbreaking, unheard of possible premise like that I never would have expected. Like it's like all okay, yeah, it's not blowing me away in how you know the way that like Barbarian or something that had huge reveals that changed the script all of a sudden did. Uh, Again, not to suck off Barbarian, but it doesn't do it's not unique in that way. It's just very, very good, high execution, which you would expect from a movie that has this kind of money behind it with this kind of an ensemble cast. So it lives up to the premise of what got you to sit in front of the TV or the theater for the movie, and they pay off on all of it. And I think that's what's rewarding about it. That makes it even more enjoyable because oftentimes the movies will bait you and then you don't get fulfilled in the way that you would want to be fulfilled. It's like, yeah, it was okay. This is firing on all cylinders,
yeah,
and you're never let down with any of it. And the comedic elements can be engaging, like that is. That's it's like the subtleties of just an interaction. It's not necessarily like it doesn't always read. It doesn't necessarily read super funny on paper. I don't imagine,
sure,
but the way that it was shot and the way that they acted it took it to a level that was very enjoyable and
yeah,
satisfying. For me, that scene for me was whenever everyone knows that they're going to be dying, and John Leguizamo's plus one is his assistant, and she's like, I'm just such and such a sit, and I went to I went to university. I went to Brown, and he's like, yeah, you went to Brown, like student loans, and she's like, no. He's like, you're dying.
You're dying. You're
Like
dying.
you're not a
Yeah.
common person.
Yeah.
You went to Brown and you didn't have to pay any student loans. You're in the upper echelon of fucking people. You're included in the shit that I'm dealing with here. You're takers.
Her other
And
best
that to me was great.
her other best joke was the John Leguizamo and the assistant have accepted that they're going to die, and so they reveal things to each other, and she goes, "I've been stealing from you," and he goes, "I know." She goes, "I know you know." He goes, "I wrote a bad review, or I wrote a bad recommendation to Sony." She goes, "You CC'd me on it."
Yeah, there's all
Yeah,
kinds of
just
moments like that, and it's
brilliant
very
comedy,
satisfying.
yeah.
I do like the the escape that that Margot, Anya Taylor-Joy's character, does find. You know, she somehow she finds a way to get into the chef's private residence on the
Right.
island,
She
and
learns
she discovers his origin story
right. It's
of coming from, like,
employee of the
Hell's
month.
Kitchen.
Yeah, the employee
Yeah,
of the
at a
month
burger
at
joint.
a burger joint. So she
And so,
complains.
yeah.
Complains about the food. She gets him to make a burger, and he revealed to her earlier that he's lost all joy of cooking.
Yes,
And
they've
and
taken it from him. Yeah.
so this scene is actually very beautiful. I loved how subtle the performance from once again Ray Fiennes. Like he just destroys the scene where all he's doing is cooking a fucking burger, and
Yeah.
feel you feel his love. Like
Yes, and again, this is why you'll love watching Pig.
he relearns how to love cooking in this 30-second burger making montage. Then he he watches her take the first bite and gets the review, and then he gives her a doggy bag and lets her go. Because she let him experience the joy of cooking one last time before he dies, because it's a murder suicide thing. It's not just a murder thing.
Yeah, it's super satisfying. It made sense. It gave growth to his character. You could see, like, the warmth in his character, even though, like, this horrific thing that's going to happen. Obviously, he's not a good person.
He smiles.
Yeah,
not for the first time.
It's satisfying. Yeah, right. So it's rewarding in a narrative sense, with the twists that it take to give her an exodus from the island to then watch it from afar, kind of casually gnashing her burger as, like, these fucking mucky mucks do some crazy shit.
Yeah.
And, like, in the end conclusion of a s'mores, where they list the ingredients, because that's the other fun thing. They do this gag where they list the ingredients with each part of the menu, and get customers, staff,
restaurant. So before we get to the s'more conclusion, I don't know if we're going to talk more about it or not, but one thing this movie does extremely well is at the beginning of the movie, you don't know shit from Jack, right?
Shanula.
Yeah.
Isn't that what they say?
I think that's what they say. By the end of the movie, you're glad they let Anya Taylor-Joy go, because she's the only seemingly human, redeemable human character in the crew. And she's a prostitute, which I think is a funny kind of
sex worker.
Sex worker is a way to, it's like a here's the only redeemable character, and it's a sex worker. So for some people, that's kind of an uncomfortable feeling to have, So then
think how she feels.
Yeah. And you hate every single other customer so much
they're the worst,
that you're glad they're all gonna die. And then from the Ray Fiennes character perspective, you're kind of happy for him that he gets what he wants, because he does win in the terms of, like, he completes his menu, he completes the menu. So like it's almost a happy ending. The only redeemable character lives, all the bad guys die, and the villain, even though you're kind of root for him, gets he gets what he wanted. So it really has this great ending where you're satisfied in many different ways.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the only thing that, like, if I were to, like, be hypercritical, is like, well, I mean, the staff, you're like,
yeah, the staff,
but
yeah,
kitchens are very unique work places, in that, it really is a an army type mentality where it's like, this is the general, you follow the general, you will die for the general, because that's the only way that they can operate. It's 100% behind the effort and the goal of what they're trying to achieve, with the chef being the person. And so it all makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just that's the only thing where you can have some hesitancy with like embracing the fact that they all died, but they did it willingly. um so that's fine.
Yeah. Um, another great movie. Um, another eight. So
Hmm.
surprised. I'm so surprised. Like back to back eights, both big budget Hollywood movies. Like this doesn't feel right. Like I feel dirty. given, given these
For
two,
sure.
given these
It's
two movies
bizarre. Yeah,
reviews.
I
Yeah.
didn't expect it. And I think that's in part why we were hesitant to even review them, and we just saw it as a window to like have like, at least it would be a watchable movie. At least I had that. I hung my head on that. Like it can't be awful because it's a big budget, wide release thing. It can't be complete garbage. So
Right.
I thought at least I would see something interesting, even if I'm not super into it. I'll at
Yeah.
least have a 6 would be like my lowest, or a 5 would be my lowest, I guess. But 6 is probably where I'll land, even if I'm not into it, because it should look good and look well done. And so yeah, it was a pleasant surprise. So, and wow, what a cast! Fucking Angela, who's the boss,
Who's the boss? Yeah. Yeah.
all kinds of people. It was pretty wild to see. Oh, and what's her? We didn't even mention her, but the fucking critic.
The
You
critic.
you you
Ah,
didn't watch Ozark, did you?
I did watch Ozark. She's
Oh
the
yeah,
she's the
she's one of
lawyer.
the
Yeah.
cartel people. Yeah, the cartel lawyer in
Yeah.
Ozark. Holy shit, she's. I was like, where
She's
is she
great.
from? And then
Yeah.
I hit it, and yeah, she's fantastic as far as the critic. And the guy that she's with is like, she's always like just demeaning and like
Oh,
talking down, like, and
he's
he's
so
like, yeah, yeah.
terrible.
He's just a yes
He's
guy,
yeah, he's well, I
It
mean
is funny.
that was it. Yeah, they were all just so terrible people, and you know that's why they were chosen for his menu.
Oh yeah, the only other one, it was like the halibut joke. I did love the halibut
Oh, the
joke,
halibut joke was so good. It was
where
so good.
he's like, name one dish that you've had in the
Yeah.
past 11 times you've been here, and they can't. And she says
She
like,
goes the cod,
cod.
the cod.
He says,
The-
it was
It was a
halibut, you donkey.
halibut, you donkey. It was
She
rare spotted halibut, and she goes,
and
"Who?"
she's like, what is it? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's fish.
He goes, it
And he's like,
matters to the halibut.
just beautiful. This is so perfect.
So
Uh,
good. Oh man.
yeah, and I imagine after watching a second time, you pick up on a lot of other nuances, and so I
Oh
look
yeah,
forward to
yeah.
that.
The
I'll share this one for sure with Sarah.
the looks is what you got to look for because the jokes are pretty much all dialogue driven, but when you watch it the second time, you get to look at what people are looking at in the background, and like the staff is sometimes giving things away by staring at customers and the faces that everybody makes in the background. There's a lot of that stuff going on in the movie. It was
Yeah,
really great to see. I thought Angela had a good moment actually. Um,
Angela.
yeah, like her last moment in the movie. She says
Oh,
something.
she nodded to
Right
Margot.
to Margot to run to leave.
Yeah,
It's like
she was like,
yeah.
you did
Margot
it.
looks back
Get
and
the fuck out of here.
she's like just go, let us die. She's like
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Like, and she's accepting the fact that like, yeah, she gets that her husband hired her at some point. Like, she understands
Right
that they have a past, and she's like, yeah, you got it, you did it, you
yeah
figured it out. Go.
yeah
Yeah, a little bit redeeming quality when for the most part they're all shit.
yeah. Yep. All right. Well,
What a night.
I think that yeah, what a night. I think that brings us to the end of episode 25. Make sure to come back next week for the final episode of season 2.
Oh yeah.
The
It will be
best.
a
Oh,
amazing performance. So we're gonna have a
there's
lot to go into.
this year has been and what's crazy is we've been saying it all year that it's the best year for horror, and I've seen I would say at least a half a dozen year in reviews already that I've read
Yeah.
or watched, and they all start off the same way that this has been the craziest year for horror. So it was nice to see other people agreeing with that sentiment. Um, and yeah, it's gonna be a long episode, I think, um, because it's award season for us. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Highly coveted. I'm sure people will be
Yes.
scrambling to check their feed to see if we mention them or not. But
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. We're gonna take it pretty seriously as far as wanting to give as much of a breakdown or highlight the things that are important or relevant to this year. If you haven't watched a lot of what we've done this year, um, then I think this will be a good way to find the little nuggets of things you might be interested in to then go back and watch movies and revisit our episodes because we did discuss quite a few fucking movies this year.
Like 50 something. I don't even know how many. It's a
We
lot
definitely
of
have watched
movies.
over 60 to go over this year
Yeah.
because, we would do a couple and then we would watch some and we would never really, we wouldn't
Review
do
them.
episodes necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have like 6 to watch in the next 4 or 5 days that I want to consider for Tuesday.
Yeah, I know,
Um,
and I can't help it because it's just like I have this come true type syndrome where it's like I didn't see that last year, and I'm
yeah.
so mad because it would have been in the top three. Uh, like the list that you mentioned, there's great movies in there. A lot of people are pretty confident, like in the top fives or top tens at least. There's a lot of people have the same feeling with a lot of films, and I know for sure that we would disagree with a couple of those certainly.
I mean, what Hellbender is number one on on so many lists, and it's like, yeah, it was a great movie. Yeah, it was super indie, no budget,
Mhm.
shot by a family of pretty talented people. Is it top five? No. Is it top 10? Probably not. Like, it was a good movie. I think I gave it a
It's very good.
7. I'd have to go back and look, but
Yeah, you could have. There's just so much good stuff this year.
there's
And,
two.
you see a lot
Yeah,
of people talk about Smile and Barbarian and X and
yeah,
Pearl. Some
and
people
that's
have
just domestic.
Scream and
Like,
things
you
like
have,
that.
yeah.
And yes, I know. There's so much.
When you consider international, like, there's like the
It's a much
innocence.
larger world.
The
Yeah.
innocence you have to consider, I think, seriously for a
Hmm.
list.
Hatching is
Ha-
also up there.
yeah, Hatching, very great movie. Yeah, I don't know. Like,
It's definitely hard to boil it down to just five.
it's gonna be a tough year.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, let's
All
wrap it
right,
up, brother.
yeah. So, bones and all, an 8 and an 8. The menu, an 8 and an 8. Probably a
Chris,
podcast for the recently deceased history right there.
could be.
For episode 25 for the podcast, I'm Nate Roberts,
And I'm ready to go to take care.
and we'll see you next week.